such.
As we heard, there are people in Sweden who support Israel and have a deep sense of the injustice of the present situation. It's these people who give hope to those who still believe that things will get better here. One of them is Barbara Spector, a former American who made Aliyah and then 10 years ago, with the help of the government of Sweden, set up a non-denominational institute of Jewish learning with the Greek name of Paideia here in Stockholm. She believes the current wave of anti-Semitism in Sweden will pass and that Jews have an important role to play in a country undergoing profound change.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
So do what we tell you or else. So we're leaving off with this article right here. Now EU seeks to ban the traditional family. Also, Newsweek covers saying you're old, you're white, and your history, along with more legislation for Maine and Maryland improving gay marriage. We have this right here. EU seeking to ban the family. It goes on and says what kind of people come up with these ideas and what kind of people vote on them. It says these people are not just announcing their intentions to attack the family, but to ban by force any mention of it. So it goes on and says it's a little bit like trying to legislate away gravity. Human biology trends towards families, and here's more from the article. You can go in there and check that out. All these different things about how women are oppressed and the traditional family and stuff like that, and what all these special programs that they're going to introduce here, saying they should therefore be introduced, in which men and women are no longer used in examples and traditional roles, with the males as the breadwinner of the family and the female as the one who takes care of the children. It's interesting because it says, with reference to media and advertising, it must be noted that unsupervised television viewing among children and youngsters starting at a very early age is on the rise. Negative gender stereotypes can therefore have significant influence on young women's confidence and self-esteem. Well, you be rest assured that most of the television that they're watching is including this non-traditional BS. Engineering was what it is. You can't turn on the television without seeing it in commercials and in TV shows and in movies. It goes on and says the Eurozone is crumbling, millions are out of work, and a generation of young Europeans face a bleak future. Yeah, they call it economic suicides. Yet the EU is spending its time concentrating on how to socially engineer our children. The policy championed by EU Justice Commissioner would make it mandatory for all publicly traded companies to fill 40% of seats on their boards with women by 2020 or face hefty fines. It's also possible to see these proposals within the context of deliberate provocation. The dominant social theme here is obviously one of tolerance of the legislated variety, but the subdominant social theme might actually be one of deliberate incitement. It goes on here, it says increasingly clear that top bureaucrats plan to expose and in tatters have decided on deliberate authoritarianism to show clearly that Europe's suffering middle class, that they don't have a choice. The upshot here has been a bloody wave of violence across Europe's pigs. Arrogant legislation like this provides clues of more to come. That's right. In Russia, they've had protests, and in Eastern Europe, they don't want this stuff. In Africa, they don't want this stuff, but they keep pushing it. Next up, Rhode Island. And this is just to show you what's going on here. Rhode Island bans father-daughter dances, and there's all kinds of articles like this. This is from September 20th, 2012. In an effort to comply with state laws about gender discrimination, this Rhode Island school district banned father-daughter dances and mother-son baseball games after a single mom complained that her daughter wasn't able to attend a dance. And what TV's new Sex and the City reveals about the lives of young women today, and it's both shocking and heartbreaking. So I guess the point of this news report today is if you are a young female, you're being used and exploited just like the male is, just as much. So if you think that what they're proposing here is to help empower you, it's not, because there's alternate programming, brainwashing, or engineering, whatever term you prefer, going on. And one of them is to be treated like shit and to like it. It is a poignant scene in which Hannah dithers in the hallway of a flat, trying to be cool but desperate for some scrap of attention to prove their encounter meant something, talking about having sex and not being able to wait for them to leave. So yeah, we're talking about the show Girls. I think it's from HBO, but there's a lot of these shows too that I'm going to get into, like The New Normal and stuff like that. It's all programming, but while Carrie's lifestyle was airbrushed to the point of fantasy, they're talking about having the girl basically calling her, swear words and stuff like that, and playing out these fantasies for them. Girls is grimly authentic, and gritty detail shows the downside of no strings attached sex for today's well-educated middle-class young women. And they're comparing it to the programming for 30-year-olds, Sex in the City, and 40-year-olds, I guess. But they said this one is for 20-somethings, and it's more unglamorous. It says these young women who can't get jobs or afford mortgages, let alone find real intimacy in a desolate landscape of casual sex, heavily influenced by online pornography. As one character, Hannah goes along with the status quo no matter how degraded she feels because there's no choice if she is to keep Adam interested. It says the more he asks her to do, the more she tries to win his favor to try to find the emotional connection missing between them. This is what I've referred to when I talk about killing the family. They want complete domination of society, and they can't have individual sovereign units of families existing, so they'll do whatever it takes, including promoting homosexuality. I'm not saying you're going to hell if you do that. I'm just saying that they're promoting this for a certain reason, for social engineering, population issues, and control. So they have to kill the family in order to do that. They don't want people actually getting married and having long, fulfillful marriages. That's why you see all these divorces right now. I mean, this has been happening since the 70s, divorce rates at record rates in history. I just covered about the record number of women having babies to basically, without fathers. I mean, they're with fathers, but basically there's no family. It says here it's a world where smartphone apps mean you can locate a new partner near you at any time, day or night, where revolving door relationships are accelerated by widespread cyber dating and exchanging tweets mistaken for relationship building. Next up, we have Nicole Kidman quits real sex film. Moving down here, the actor has reportedly quit a new movie, Nymphomaniac, after finding out she had to have real sex on scene. Wonder if she's going to get sued over that. Then here, of course, you have The New Normal, right? A single mother's life as she becomes a surrogate for a gay couple. Mom of Modern Family teen star accused of abuse. So it says the mother of the Modern Family star, Ariel Winter, has temporarily lost custody of the actress amid claims she has been physically and emotionally abusive to the teenager, court records show. Then next up, women not knowing she's pregnant gives birth at Bilo. This is actually from the 20th of October. South Carolina women who did not know she was pregnant gave birth inside a grocery store. They said that mother and child were taken to the hospital and both appeared to be fine. Soldier who didn't know she was pregnant gives birth on the front lines. Again, this is what I'm talking about, the false feminism. Having women in the military, now female officers in the Marine Corps are being actually put into infantry roles. So soldier who didn't know she was pregnant gives birth on the front lines. And, you really shouldn't even want to be there if you're female. I mean, you're going to be tossed around and used like a blow-up doll. I hate to say it. You shouldn't even be in that environment. Poll 3, but they want you to be empowered, so they push that and glorify it in television, like with G.I. Jane and that. So this has been going on for a while, man. 3.4% of U.S. adults are gay, bisexual, transgender. The LGBT identification highest among younger, non-white, less educated. If you spend a lot of time watching network television, you would think most LGBT people are rich white men living in big cities, but the poll says these data suggest that the community reflects more diversity in the U.S. The ultra-conservative, anything that's real conservative is considered ultra-conservative or far-right. American Research Council squawked that while the LGBT population may be 3.4% of America, they seem to enjoy 100% accommodation. Again, that's the same with Zionists as well. Being straight, no longer normal, students are taught. This is recently from October 17th. In Australia, the education minister says the government is committed to stamping out homophobic bullying in schools, but his department won't approve teaching material aimed at stamping out heterosexualism. British police investigate lawmakers' anti-gay tweets. He wouldn't be the first. They calls discrimination a fundamental right. So it makes sense because he's a far-right conservative. Next up, we have Norway nixes award for anti-semitic charity award. So Norwegian Royal Palace was set to award Islamic Foundation head who has been accused of anti-Semitism. So the decision to withdraw the honor was announced Tuesday after the Oslo mayor canceled his participation. So, yeah, pretty interesting. He was warning of Jewish influence on media and lobbying. So this is the second time in Norway, and Sweden. They've had situations, like I said, the Zionists. I'm sure that they're starting to tick off those countries in Scandinavia, and that low turnout as Ireland votes to improve children's rights. So, yeah, it says here Ireland had voted to amend its constitution to improve the children's rights. Actually, they were trying to give them the right to abort when they were like 5 years old or 10 years old. Really, really sick shit. And most people weren't for it, so that's a good sign, I guess. UK's Prime Minister's police reforms failed to impress. UK government has been warned that barely 1 in 6 people will bother to vote when Britain goes ahead with electing its first police and crime commissioners this week. So just like America, what was it, 60% or something like that didn't vote. So, I mean, people are just, they're detaching themselves from the system, which is good. Police, Polish police clashed with protesters on national holiday. This is from November 11th. Riot police in the Polish capital used rubber bullets and that on Sunday to break up a crowd of far right-wing extremists. Well, what were these dangerous far-right extremists, possible terrorists, saying? Well, let's see. Prime Minister, a liberal, is credited by many polls for bringing political stability. But the predominantly Catholic society is deeply split over issues such as abortion, gay rights, and how to deeply integrate with the EU. In other words, lose your sovereignty, hand it over to the dictatorship in Europe. Violence flares, demonstrators gathered for a right-wing rally in the shadow of the Palace of Culture and Science, a neo-Gothic Soviet-era skyscraper. The young men, with their faces covered by scars, chanted nationalist slogans and rallied against supposed Jewish conspiracies. It's interesting. Someone made a comment. Why is that around the entire world, right? Maybe they're not just conspiracies. Maybe there are certain groups out there that are killing people's culture while maintaining theirs by any means necessary. But some people don't get that. Some people are naive, right? So you can say, are people getting more naive, or are people becoming more stupid? Well, are we getting more stupid? Researchers claim our intelligence is diminishing as we take more and more vaccines, genetically modified food, get sprayed, have fluoride in the water, among many other things. We no longer need it to survive. A good reason for that is because the social engineers have designed it so that you don't have to think for yourself. They do the thinking for you through the media, through government telling you what to do. You know, don't put out that fire and try to save your family. You need to obey orders. You know, they'd rather have volunteers pushed away, coming from all the way from across the country to help Sandy victims and allow people to basically freeze in their apartments instead of letting people volunteer. Why? Because it's not part of it, right? They'd rather have people starve to death, lock up garbage cans so people in Spain can't go dumpster diving. They'd rather have them starve or not grow gardens, right, in this bad economy to grow their own food. They'd rather have them starve. That's how much they care about them, just so that they remember that the powers that be, they do the thinking for them. So this theory from Stanford says we are losing our intellectual and emotional capabilities because the intricate web of genes which endows us with brain power is particularly vulnerable to mutations. These mutations are not being selected against our modern society because we no longer need intelligence to survive. So it says, as by the time it becomes a real problem, technology will have found a solution, making natural selection obsolete. It's interesting here because they go on here and they talk about agriculture and urbanization, right? Progress, right? The Babylon cities, that's progress. So technology and stuff that help cause it is actually going to do what? It's going to be the solution. It's the thing that's going to help. Just like in sci-fi movies, eventually they're just going to hook you up to some kind of like a matrix mainframe where you plug yourself in and you just, detach yourself from physical reality. What if people were as stupid as in 1886 as they are now? Actually, I think the people in 1886 were probably a lot more intelligent than we are now. But I'll return in part 4 with this. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.